All right, what is up, everyone? We are going to be getting right into another in-depth deck profile. Today, we are going to be looking at Invoked Dogmatika with a small DPE engine in it. This deck is super fun. It's super controlling. The Invoked engine has been super relevant for a really long time. You know, there's been formats where it hasn't been as good as others, but it's still a really cool engine that's super consistent every single time, and you can set up some really cool plays. Let's start with the main deck. This time I have everything organized by its engine. So we'll start with your Invoked engine first. We have triple Alistair the Invoker, triple Magical Meltdown, double Invocation, and then our one copy of Terraforming. All right, let's go over these ratios. And we won't spend too much time on it because this has been around for so long that everyone knows by now what you need to play. We don't need to try and sound smart about it. This is consistent and this is what works. So, triple Alistair because he's our starter. We run 3 because we need to see him. Triple Magical Meltdown because that's our searcher for our starter, and it's also super good because it provides that protection against cards that would try to negate the activation of your fusion summon. Magical Meltdown says no. It does not stop cards like Ash Blossom, because Ash Blossom, like say you activate Fusion Destiny or Shaddoll Fusion, Ash Blossom will still stop that because Ash negates the effect, doesn't negate the activation. So remember that. Any card that says negate the activation, Meltdown will say no. But any card that negates the effect, Meltdown will not stop that. And then the last really cool effect from Meltdown is, let's read it. Effects that include an effect that fusion summon, no. Also, your opponent's cards and effects cannot activate when a monster is fusion summoned this way. So in this deck, the way that's relevant is, say we have Magical Meltdown up, we summon Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer. Because he is a quick effect, on the resolution of his summon, we can chain him, and then your opponent pretty much literally cannot respond at all as long as Magical Meltdown is on the board. So really important to keep that in mind. You don't want to let your opponent trick you, or even if they're not trying to do it on purpose, you want to know what you're supposed to do. The 2 Invocation, because it's searchable, and running 3 is a little too bricky. And then the 1 copy of Terraforming, that's pretty standard too. This is what we'll add our Magical Meltdown if we don't have it in our hand. Next, we will look at the Dogmatika engine. We are running triple Dogmatika Ecclesia, double Dogmatika Maximus. I'll explain why. 1 single copy of Fleur de Lis, 2 copies of Nadir's Servant, 1 copy of Dogmatika Punishment, and then the card that was put into the Dogmatika Hall of Fame, an honorary Dogmatika card, Shaddoll Schism. So let's go over these ratios. 3 Ecclesia is pretty standard. This is a searcher. This is the one that you probably want to open. I mean, it will let you search your Maximus or your Fleur. It's really cool to special during the end phase when Titaniclad is sent to the grave, and then you special summon this, and then off of Ecclesia you can add your Fleur to hand. So it's really cool. We're running 2 Maximus pretty much because Nadir's Servant was hit to 2. So Nadir getting hit to 2 hurt the consistency of our Shaddoll Schism plays. So running 1 extra copy of Maximus definitely helps to protect against that, because even though you aren't lucky enough to draw Nadir's Servant and you have that beautiful Almirage in your graveyard waiting to get banished, you still get lucky enough to draw another Maximus. You've increased your chances of drawing that by a little bit because we're running 2 copies. And then we have our 1 copy of Fleur de Lis. This should pretty much always be played at 1. You know, it's a really good monster negate, non-targeting, activates in the hand, and your opponent has to decide right then and there if they stop it, because if they don't, then it'll resolve, and then it'll summon, and then it will negate. You know, you don't bring it out and then your opponent goes, oh, chain to the negate. It's like, nope, it doesn't work like that. You had to stop it when it was in my hand. Then we're running our 2 copies of Nadir's Servant. This is a really good card, and I can understand why Konami bumped it down a notch. The Invoked engine with the Dogmatic engine combined is a really strong package that if you don't have the right cards, it'll be really hard to get over. So I understand, you know, they wanted to lower it down a notch a little bit. Then we're running the 1 copy of the Punishment. There's 2 reasons we're running this. 1, because it can still come up in plays where you don't really get to do anything fusion based, you know. Like if my Alistair gets stopped, I don't have any way to go into any of my extra deck monsters, or I get hit with a Scythe lock. At least I have this to fall back on. This can help you increase your board presence, you know, target one of your monsters, send Titaniglad, and then during the end phase, special summon Ecclesia, and then Ecclesia will add either Fleur or Maximus, whatever you need. So it definitely has its uses. The most common play, target one of your opponent's monsters, send Intis, and then you get a double pop. That's also pretty good. And then the 1 copy of Shadal Schism, and we're playing this to make El Shadal Winda on our opponent's turn. That is a really oppressive play to make, and it will stop them from doing all their crazy special summoning. So it's a really good card to play. It can be stopped, you know. One thing that happens with a lot of people is if you're playing, like if they have a card that can be chained during the standby phase, like Cosmic Cyclone or Twin Twister, and they know that your set card is that Schism, then you're kind of screwed, because Schism can be activated in the standby phase, but the effect can't be used in the standby phase. So it's pretty much a sitting duck. You know, you can't out-chain them in the standby phase, unfortunately. Then we're playing our Destiny Hero, Destroyer, Phoenix, Enforcer package. The 2 second best bricks in the game with 2 Fusion Destiny. That's pretty standard. Now onto our hand traps. We are running triple Ash Blossom. Obviously a really good card in any deck. Triple Ghost Ogre. This is a really slept on card right now. There's a lot of really good cards that it stops. You know, it stops the Brave Token engine. When they play the continuous spell and they go to search, you'll stop them. And then it just has a lot of other really good uses. Fluunderies, they activate the field spell and then use the effect, boom, chain Ghost Ogre. So it's really cool. And then we're playing double Effect Veiler. We're running it at 2 just because we don't really have the space for more. And it can still come up, you know. I don't want to rely on it. 1 Effect Veiler will not stop your opponent from making their plays. And then we're running triple Infinite Impermanence. This is kind of like Veiler. I mean, it's a good card when it's paired with other cards, but if all you have is an Imperm and your opponent is playing any kind of combo deck that has any kind of follow-up, then you're not going to stop them. But I think it's still a really good card. Plus I have these shiny secrets that I want to put to good use. So yeah, that's where we're playing it. Now for our other utility cards and other board breaking cards, we are playing triple Pot of Prosperity. I have a love-hate relationship with this card. There's times where I have a really bad hand, so I absolutely have to banish 6. Otherwise I'm just gonna end on, you know, hand traps in hand. So I banish 6. I'm lucky enough to get maybe Alistair or Nadir's Servant, but then I just dumped almost half my extra deck into the banish pile, and Invoked is one of those decks where you need all your extra deck resources if you're gonna try and grind. So banishing 3 is really what you want to do. That's all you want to do, because it's still going to leave you with a lot of stuff in your extra deck to be able to outplay your opponent. So be really careful playing that card. And then we're playing triple copies of Forbidden Droplet. This is always a really good card, unless you're playing against some trap deck or something, instantly side it out because it's not going to do squat. But it's still a really good card if you're going second. You know, say you're playing Phantom Knights and they set up their whole board, they get Dagda out, activate a different effect, chain Dagda to set Scythe, and then they end on, you know, Fusion Destiny. Oh, great, amazing. Then during your standby phase, you have this in your hand. They use DPE to try and pop the Scythe, and then boom, you chain Droplet, and then you stop them from that play. That's obviously not all it's good for. That's just one scenario that I'm bringing up. So it's still a really good card. Basically, break any big boss monster and then continue with your combos. And then we're playing the one copy of Called by the Grave. Even though this is at 1, it's still a really good card to play, and it can still come up a lot. All right, now into our extra deck. We'll start with the fusions. Playing one copy of Intis, one copy of Titaniclad, and then the great man himself, Phoenix Enforcer. These are all really good cards and have a lot of really good uses in this deck. Next, we are going to look at our Shaddoll monsters that we use for Schism. One copy of El Shaddoll Winda, one copy of El Shaddoll Ab Cologne, and then one copy of El Shaddoll Construct. Pretty much almost never make this one, but I guess in those weird scenarios where you're playing against Abramax, and then, you know, they used IP Masquerade to go into him, then the Schism making Construct might be your one way out of it, because he can't be targeted and then he can't be destroyed. So, but usually Construct is my part of Prosperity Banish target. These are the two I go for. Use Nadir's Servant to send this, and then add Schism, discard another card from my hand, and then boom. Now I'm set up to make El Shaddoll Winda during my opponent's turn and stop their plays. Then we'll look at the Invoked cards. We have one Invoked Kaliga, one Invoked Algides, one Invoked Purgatrio, and then last but not least, 2 copies of Invoked Makaba. Kaliga is really good because he's Floodgates. You tell your opponent you can only activate 1 monster effect per turn, and you can only attack once per turn. He's pretty weak, but he's got a pretty beefy rear end. 1800 defense is still pretty decent. Basically, the point of him is to slow your opponent down on their turn. They might still kill him, but then they didn't OTK you, and then hopefully on your following turn, boom, that's when you strike back and then you stop them. Algides is pretty good and worth playing. It can help you push for a game, banish a fusion monster, gain the attack. It's once per turn, target destroy is pretty decent too. If you have Winda and Algides on the board both at the same time, that's a pretty decent board, because they get 1 special summon per turn, and then as soon as they special summon it, then you target it and pop it. So that's pretty good, because then, you know, they go, okay, pass turn. They don't have anything else to do. Purgatrio is still really good and really slept on, and there's some scenarios where all you have to do is just make him and then just nuke your opponent's whole board. And then he does piercing damage. If you get lucky and you have a couple Alistairs in hand, you know, he might already be at like 27 or 2900 attack based off what your opponent controls, and then you boost him by 2000 by sending a couple Alistairs from your hand, and then he can just attack and do piercing damage. There's definitely been some times where I 1 turn killed people that way. And then 2 Invoked Makaba, pretty standard. We're guaranteed going to make one of them, and the other one might be our prosperity target, but it's still worth running it too. Sometimes you might make the second one, and that comes up as well. Then for the links, we're playing our Almirage and Secure Gardener package. Normal summon Alistair, link for 1 into Almirage, because Almirage says 1 normal summon monster with 1,000 attack, 1,000 or less attack. What a surprise, Alistair has 1,000 attack. And then we use Almirage to link into Secure Gardener. And this is how we get our light target on the board to make Makaba. Because then you have this out in your link zone, and then you activate Invocation, banish this and Alistair to make Makaba. Sometimes you gotta be careful because this guy cannot be used as link material, period. It's not until the end of the turn or till the end of the opponent's turn. It just says, cannot be used as link material. Oh, nice, thank you. So be very careful because he'll occupy your link zone and he doesn't have any arrows pointing down, so you can't co-link anything. So just keep that in mind. Like if you're trying to make Anaconda, then you need to leave that zone open, you know. Stop at Almirage and then go to Anaconda, because once he's out, you can't link him away. And then lastly, Predator Plant Anaconda. This is just another way to make DPE. Still a really good card. It does suck really bad when you pay 2k, send his costs, and then he gets negated. You know, that falls pretty flat, but what I've learned is anything can happen in Yu-Gi-Oh! So you still want to go for it because it's a really good play. Get DPE out on the board. I'm not really running Super Poly in the side deck, but that's another pretty decent card that you can send off of him. Target your opponent's monster, make it dark, assuming you can target it, and then send Super Poly, and then use both of them to make Starving Venom, Fusion Dragon. So, you know, that doesn't really have any follow-up play after that, but it's still pretty decent sometimes. And then lastly, Side Frame Lord Omega. There's a lot of really cool interactions with this card in the Dogmatika engine. There's been times where in one turn I had sent Intis off of Nadir's Servant, and then later in that turn I specialed out Maximus and then sent Omega and Titaniclad. And then I can't remember how, but somehow Maximus survived until my next turn. He's got a pretty big rear end. He's got 3,000 defense, so he survived. And then I used Omega to shuffle the Intis back into the extra deck, and then I just used Maximus to send Intis again a second time, and that was super funny to get that double pop, even though it was a whole turn apart. So he's a really good card. He's an easy prosperity banish target too, so that will come up. And now for the side deck, if I can find it. Here it is. Sorry, I misplaced it. For the side deck, we're running 1 copy of Red Reboot. This is a really good card against a lot of different decks. If you go to a local, pretty sure you're gonna run into at least one Eldritch player. So immediately side this in. And then we're running triple copies of Tisubu, or there can be only one. And this is a really good card right now. It hurts a lot of different decks really badly. Hurts Fluanderies, Phantom Knights, Sword Soul. Has a lot of really cool uses, and it definitely hurts your opponent more than it hurts you. So that's why we play it. Then we're running our back row removal, 1 Feather Duster and 2 Cosmic Cyclone. We're not playing Twister. Technically, Twister is stronger, you know, getting rid of 2 cards, but we really need all of our resources. We can't discard anything. We don't really plus off of that. So we're playing 2 Cosmic because banishing 1 is the next best thing, I think. Feather Duster is a little slow, you know, spell speed 1, so your opponents can chain to it. And this is not chainable to anything else. So the Cosmics, maybe they should be 3, because I feel like outplaying your opponent is the best that you can do. But this is what I have, so this is what I play. Then we're running 2 copies of Artifact Lancia. I'm a little hesitant about playing this at 3 just because it can backfire and hurt me as well, because I need to banish. I had misplays where I would activate Lancia during my opponent's turn, you know, thinking, yeah, I'm gonna stop him from banishing. And then they would activate a monster effect later in the turn, and then I would go to activate Makaba's effect to negate and banish, but Lancia says that neither player can banish until the end of the turn. So I just shut myself out of using Makaba's banish effects. And you know, when you're playing an online simulator, the first thing to complain about is, what the heck, why won't it let me activate my effect? But you know, just, we're all typical Yu-Gi-Oh players. In a game where reading is required, we all really suck at it, so just keep that in mind. Then we are playing Triple Token Collector. This is obviously a really meta-relevant card. Stops the Brave token engine that everyone is playing. And then it also stops Sword Soul too, so it's a really cool card. And then lastly, we're playing 3 Ghost Reaper and Winter Cherries. There's other cards that I would want to play over this. I just don't have them yet. I'm currently waiting for some stuff to come in the mail, but this is still a really fun card. Like, sometimes I like to play those cards that no one is expecting. And this would probably be best. This would be best in a Phantom Knights matchup because, you know, as soon as they normal summon or special their first monster, you go, oh, activate Ghost Reaper and Winter Cherries. Reveal your DPE in your extra deck, and then banish theirs from their extra deck. And then boom, you just lock them out of that loving sight block that everyone loves to do. So that's a really good card, and I feel like it can be unexpected, and it can just come up in those weird pinch situations. If you happen to have some kind of mirror match where you're playing a Dogmatika deck, then you can use that to banish their Titaniclad or their Intis, and then shut them out of some of their most major plays. So I think it's a really cool card, and I still want to play it. Well, I hope you enjoyed it. This is another deck that I have a lot of fun playing. Next video is probably going to be test hands and different plays and reactions. I didn't want to try and cram it all into this video because these in-depth deck profiles are around 20 minutes each, and you know, I don't want to lose your guys' interest. So there's definitely going to be a lot more stuff coming in future videos. So I hope you guys keep staying tuned. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, share my video. If you do any of those, I really appreciate it. I'm honestly not trying to get popular. I just want to help more people play Yu-Gi-Oh! You know, it's an incredibly fun game. When COVID first happened, I had more free time on my hands, and I had been thinking about playing Yu-Gi-Oh! For a long time, but I just never did it. And then I just decided to jump back in, and it's a really fun game. It helps, you know, involve your mind. It helps you think differently, and it's also just really fun because you meet a lot of new friends and you just get to explore all these different ideas. So here on YouTube, that's what I'm trying to make happen. I'm trying to bring more people together and get more people to play Yu-Gi-Oh! So I hope you enjoyed the video, and you guys have a good one. Peace out.